Well, greetings, everyone. Thank you for always keeping it on CK Sports, liking our content, commenting, and sharing our content. If you are yet to subscribe, we also encourage you to subscribe on our YouTube channel, CK Sports, so that we can be able to grow as an audience. But also, it gives you an edge that every time we do upload a new video, you are one of the first people to get to see what we have uploaded. Clive Chaze is my name. And yes, we do broadcast from Kampala, Uganda. We talk a lot about Ugandan football, African football, and yes, sometimes topics that make rounds beyond the African continent. And yes, we do broadcast from Kampala, Uganda. Now, today, we bring you another sensitive, interesting topic around African football, but of course, in East Africa, because like you know, Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania are preparing to host the 2027 Africa Cup of Nations that will be next year in June and July. And because of that, a lot of attention is on the East African region. But before we dive straight into our discussion, I won't be doing this alone. I am joined by Ismail Dakawa Chigongo, who is the head of sports at Nation Media Group here in Kampala, Uganda. Ismail, greetings and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Clive. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are watching. Yeah, glad to be here.
Maybe for people watching us for the first time, they'll want to know the jersey you're wearing today.
This is a kit of the team that has won the Ugandan League the most times. That is SC Villa, who are 17-time league champions. I was raised in a neighborhood where all we knew was Villa. My first interactions with football back in 1991, I lived in a place right across a stadium that in Uganda we call Liku, but call it the Masaka Recreation Ground. And at the time, SC Villa played their home games there, and I lived right across the road. So the little or much I know about Ugandan football for me was always from the lens of SC Villa. And by then I was barely 6 years old. Yeah, I had not even started school. I had not yet, because I skipped nursery, but I had not even gone to primary one. But I knew Villa.
Yeah, and I don't know if people noticed that you were hesitant before you said 17 league champions, because they won 16 league titles, and for 20 years they had won 16 league titles, and it was easy for us to say 16. So when they eventually won the 7th, we had to train our tongues to get used to saying 17.
I remember when I was editing the story done on the day that SC Villa won the league, I actually did make a mistake, because I left somewhere in the text that they had won 16 league titles, because that's what was on my mind. But I was lucky I was talking to one of my former supervisors, Mark Namanya, and he reminded me it's actually now 17.
Interesting. But
it becomes part of you. It's a bit like for those who watch tennis, there is a time when the holy grail of tennis was Pete Sampras and 14 Grand Slam titles. You'd say the same with golf and the majors. Everyone knows Tiger Woods has won 14. The day someone wins 15, to alter that.
I mean, City Oil has won 11 straight league titles.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to double check that we have a new National Basketball League champion in Uganda, because they had won it for 11 straight times. But Ismail, before we probably also get to discuss the main discussion, which is around Kenya and FIFA, this week that has just come to an end, we did have the Pamoja 27 workshop happening here in Kampala, Uganda, a workshop that brought together stakeholders that are directly involved in the preparations of the 2027 Africa Cup of Nations. You had the acting general secretary from CAF, Samson Adamu, and officials from CAF. You had members of the local organizing committees from Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. You had the sports ministers all here in Uganda for a 2-day workshop. And the end of it all, the CAF acting general secretary, Samson Adamu, says that the meeting was a success, or the workshop was a success. And for me, the most important statement he said was there is a strong commitment from the three governments to make sure that AFCON 2027 happens as it should be happening.
And while I was not at the venue because of several commitments, I almost followed everything that happened diligently to understand what exactly they were doing. Because one of the things I like about what CAF is doing is that they are being hands-on. Ordinarily, they would have come and inspected in February and left, and then come back in August to see how far we've moved. but they are being very proactive in knowing that this region has not yet hosted the AFCON. Other regions may have the privilege, Zambia going downwards, and then North Africa, of course, and now West Africa. But the East African region, with the exception of Ethiopia that hosted 1957,
76 actually.
Yeah, 76, there hasn't been any in this region. So when CAF chose to bring the AFCON to Kenya, Ghana, and Tanzania, they knew they were taking a risk. But for every risk is a very huge reward, and they felt this region was left out. So I like that they are being proactive, because this visit was not actually announced until about a day or two.
Yes.
Yeah, to when Samson Adamu was due to arrive in Kampala. It had not been announced prior, because ordinarily CAF visits we've known maybe a week or two prior. This was a bit late. So they needed to come and give it an extra push. One of the highlights I think I saw from that, one you've mentioned, the number of stakeholders that they did invite to that meeting or to that workshop. The other I liked is the fact that they were telling these countries to not live like islands, to work together, something that we've discussed on this show before, because even us in our small boxes were very shocked that there actually hasn't been a Pamoja local organizing committee that encompasses the 3 East African countries. That Tanzania have an LOC, Kenya have an LOC, and Uganda do also have their own LOC. And we have not seen any report prior to this week that these are working in consonant, or they are coordinating with each other. Everyone is supposed to be doing their thing. If Uganda is told to have 5-star hotels in Hoima, then they embark on that. There is no coordination. There is nothing that shows that the 3 countries have been having a conversation at breakfast, at lunch, and at dinner on where we are in terms of organization. So I thought that too was extremely important for the 3 East African countries to sit in one room together with CAF. Especially for me, the political leadership of these countries, because while it wasn't President William Ruto, President Samia Suluhu, and President Yoweri Museveni sitting, is that by the mere fact that they are ministers who sit in cabinet are the ones who attended, then they can take back the report, because in the end, hosting an AFCON is not an FA, is not a ministerial job, it's a country's job. And the CEO of a country is the president. So that is as high a delegation as these governments could have come up with.
Well, and of course, while we had meetings going on at Mestil, there were also other meetings, because the General Secretary would leave to go and have other meetings with the ministers and stuff like that. So there are probably things that would not be discussed with a bigger group, but there are sensitive things or commitments they wanted to put across that they would only have discussions with only the ministers and the FA presidents.
Actually, I remember speaking to the head of communication for Uganda, Dennis Mujimba, and I'd asked him about the final meeting, I think that happened on Thursday in the previous week. And at the time I was asking him, I wanted to know what other information we could get, or could have a conversation with the people who had been in that meeting. And his response was the final meeting was closed to everyone. I think it had been moved from one hotel to Serena Hotel. To Serena Hotel. And he actually told me even he was not attending it.
It was only the FA presidents and the ministers.
And the ministers and the CAF people.
Yes.
And I like the fact that you do some of these things behind closed doors, because then if you have to say, you use French, in literal speak, and you have to speak to someone in a way that is unpalatable on a microphone, then you form that tiny cocoon and sit in a room and leave when all the abuse is done, all the warnings or the threats have been issued on either side, or the accusations against one another. If CAF, for example, have flagged and questioned the Hoima City Stadium or Nambole for its low pace, I would love that those things are said inside the room, because then thereafter, the parties that are involved, the main parties that are involved in organization of the AFCON, can leave that room well aware of their mutual feelings. Because what happens for many of us is that and I'm a communications person, that on a microphone that is in front of a TV camera or radio or print journalist writing, we are very economic with language. Yeah, we are very good at public relations than solving things. But when you constitute that tiny room, that's where the best things are said. That's why one of the things I've loved in the last many years, reading or watching on TV, are conversations from people who worked around the former president of Kenya, Daniel Arap Moi, and they tell you what was happening actually away from us seeing him on TV with that tiny stick, yeah, at function. So in that room where the ministers and the FA presidents and CAF were seated, which meeting could not even get to 10 people,
Yeah.
there's actual work being done.
True.
Than a public relations exercise where you sit in front of journalists and promise that even if there are standards that CAF are going to compromise, those are better communicated that way than communicated on in front of the cameras and the microphones.
And of course, after that meeting, Samson Adama had to return to Mestil for a press conference where he also revealed to us arresting some of the fears. And one of those was that they have agreed, first of all, to constitute a committee that will comprise of the chairman of the local organizing committees, the FA presidents of the 3 countries, together with the sports ministers and CAF. Now that a committee is supposed to oversee what, or is supposed to be the link between CAF and the local organizing committees, oversee how work is being done by the local organizing committees as the preparations continue to intensify. And he also arrested more fears by saying there is no standby host.
Yeah.
East Africa is going to host the Africa Cup of Nations. They must do whatever it takes to make sure the region hosts that competition come at 2027.
You know, when I walked into work today, the first website I opened, curiously, I normally open the company website first, then my Gmail, then BBC. Then in that order, normally the company, then my Gmail, then BBC, then the next could be cricket. Curiously, one of the first websites I opened today was that. I opened the Ugandan FA website, and that's their top story.
Acting CAF General Secretary Adam, groundwork laid for successful Pamoja AFCON 2027.
Yeah, curiously, I'd not even had a hint. And when I went through this story, I think it's some of the things that he said at the end of that two-day workshop. And one of the things he said here, I quote, we came on a two-day working visit to dig down into the preparation of AFCON 2027. Our objective for coming here is to make sure that we align on the priorities, on the framework, on the timeline, and on the execution of AFCON Pamoja 2027. It's 3 countries that are hosting this competition. It presents a very unique opportunity for us to be able to show AFCON in a completely different light. And 3 really amazing countries, unique in their own sense. Somehow, this is a first story that I actually read this morning, because I would have been doing something else. The F website is one of the things I read later on in the day, FOFA, but this time, and there's a lot of things. But I've also, like you stated, I've seen some very unfounded or uncouth claims that the AFCON could be moved.
Yeah.
At least we are all very confident. We've seen from some of the conversations and the speeches of the CAF president, Patrice Motsepe, that Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania will host the AFCON, and they'll be given every chance to be ready, and they'll be helped to be ready. Yeah, that is for me the most important thing that CAF can do at this point, because in this era, which many call the digital era, there is an affinity for what you'd call selling bad news or trying to start a fake story. There are many people who start what we all today now call fake news. But the affinity for them is that fake news tend to travel very, very fast. Before CAF come out and speak, people have picked up on it as a story. That's why earlier on, I did advise, and I had shared with the communication people here at AFCON in Uganda, that they need to be regular with their communication.
Yes,
it doesn't help to only speak because there's a crisis, because a CAF report and Hoima isn't ready. Then there's a CAF report about something that is missing. these communications have to be regular. I would love, I remember when I proposed with you, Clive, that I felt maybe there should be one weekly. Maybe this is too early to have one weekly, but twice a month for me wouldn't. Twice a month for me wouldn't hurt. Then when we get into the final 3 weeks, rather the final 3 months, we have a press conference weekly, every week to give an update. Then when we get to the final month, there should be a press conference daily.
I think at the start of 2027, there should be a press conference weekly.
Yeah, weekly, yeah, because that's a bare minimum. We have the dates, we have all the things that we need, because yes, CECAFA are saying there will be another inspection in August, but Uganda, for example, I've seen the Minister of Sports, Peter Ogwang, come out and promise the Uganda and the continent that everything that we need will be ready in January. Why not then start giving an update? If you're required to have the media and all these digital citizen journalists go around the country and just show the people the hotels, the stadiums, the airport in Kabalega. I'd bet many of us have never been to Kabalega International Airport. It's a new facility. Even
us who have been to the Hoima State Stadium, we've actually not been at the airport.
Yeah, exactly. So it would help that to allay all those fears, take a group, maybe 100, 150 people, let them bring content in video, in
for
print,
the world to see, for the world to see and all that.
What we've actually readied for them. The other day we saw, for example, that Uganda has unilaterally decided to waive visas for the tournament.
Yes.
But you got to learn from that 2-day workshop. But it's not the same with Tanzania and Kenya. They haven't yet gone the same route.
But and you expect them to, because that was the story for Chan.
Yeah.
The idea is to have one visa.
Yeah. That once you walk into Nairobi, then once you walk in Nairobi, you're already in Hoima. And you're already in Arusha without needing to go through the chaos that can be at immigration anywhere in the world. By this chaos at immigration is not only African, it's everywhere in the world. So it's a good thing that now we start to see these countries moving together, and you could almost tell from the importance of this meeting that the presidents, no one delegated. No one delegated. Okay, I would say the chairperson of the LOC in Uganda was not in attendance.
She has 2 deputies.
Yeah, she has 2 deputies and both deputies were there. So largely everyone that needed to be there was there. I would have also loved, because this week there's been a story that has been making rounds. There was that Africa Infrastructure Financing Conference that President Museveni attended alongside William Ruto, President William Ruto of Kenya. Ruto was the host. I would love a situation where maybe later on in there, maybe November, December, for the 3 East African presidents to come together again, and their theme now should be Pamoja. Because
would that be the first time they are coming together for something to do with Pamoja?
With sport?
Yeah, no, with Pamoja in particular. I mean, because much as they have released statements, initial and stuff like that, we have not really actually had them together to discuss or at a function that is to do with the 2027 Africa Cup of Nations.
Yeah, it would be the first, because I was trying, and I follow news like bread.
But then who would host it?
Because yeah, would love that situation, because I've seen them on TV. President Museveni and President Samia Suluhu talking about the pipeline, energy. I've seen with the train. William Ruto and President Museveni also with the extension of the train from Nairobi to Naivasha, then Malaba to Kampala. That I've seen, but I haven't seen them for the Pamoja in particular. So I thought maybe that Africa Infrastructure Conference in Nairobi was another opportunity for the 3 of them to come in. But maybe the agenda was totally different. It's clear about roads and the refinery. You saw there was also Aliko Dangote, Africa's richest man from Nigeria. They'll talk about building an oil refinery at Tanga. Of course, Uganda wants one here in Hoima. So Maybe the theme was very different.
Because also, I mean, it was hard for FIFA to bring together Donald Trump and his two counterparts from Mexico and Canada, I think because of their schedules. But eventually, on the day of the draw...
It's not only their schedules, also Trump has not had some very kind language talking about them. He had spoken about annexing Canada before that, and he's accused Mexico of narco-terrorism.
Oh, yeah. God.
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, while the 2-day Pamoja 27 workshop was happening here in Kampala, Uganda, which was by the way also attended by Hussein Mohammed, the president of the Football Kenya Federation, and his deputy, McDonald Mariga, and of course other members of the local organizing committee, people in Kenya were making moves. Because on the 24th, we did get a statement, and that statement was suspending the president of the Football Kenya Federation, that is Hussein Mohammed, his acting general secretary, and a member of their national executive committee. And the suspension comes because they are being suspected, or Hussein Mohammed is being suspected of sanctioning a payment of about 42 million Kenyan shillings, which is about 1.2 million Uganda shillings, sanctioning a payment to an insurance company, Rixwell Insurance Brokers, to be in charge of insurance for the CHAN tournament on the side of Kenya. And the investigations that were done were later found out that this insurance company was just opened a few months ago before the CHAN competition. What also makes it worse...
And after receiving the money, it closed.
Yeah, and what makes it worse is that this insurance company was not registered by the Kenya Insurance Regulatory Board or something like that. There are insurance companies that went through the bidding process, which are registered and they are legit, and they were ignored, and these guys got the gig, and of course, like you said, immediately after that, it closed. So his National Executive Committee convened a meeting, and 9 members of the 12 convened a meeting, and they suspended him with another NEC member and the acting general secretary. Saturday morning, he had a press conference at the offices of the Executive Committee, quashing the meeting, saying it wasn't constitutional because only the president can convey such a meeting and stuff like that. Well, he did that. McDonald Mariga and team were also having a press conference elsewhere. Now, Sunday morning, we wake up to a letter by email from FIFA to Kenya. Whoever received it, I don't know, but it was addressed to the official email of the Federation, asking a number of questions. Some of those were asking them to provide full evidence or a full report of the process they went through to suspend the president, the general
to see
secretary,
if it follows FKF statutes.
Exactly. FIFA was also asking them to bring proof showing that they actually gave these 3 gentlemen a chance to defend themselves before issuing that suspension, and a couple of other things. Kenya, I think on 3 or 4 occasions, they have been banned by FIFA before. You feel that failure to probably provide that by the end of this month, by the way, because FIFA is working hand in hand with CAF. The reality says that CAF is investigating the matter. And for me, while all this is happening, the first question was, for starters, how does this affect the 2027 Africa Cup of Nations? Because Kenya are hosting it alongside Uganda and Tanzania. God forbid if Kenya are banned by FIFA, depending on how long the ban will take, they cannot be hosting a competition where they cannot be taking part. So whatever is happening in Kenya directly affects the Africa Cup of Nations.
FIFA bans, Clive, normally come from government interference. What I don't see is any government interference, because it's clearly FKF, the people managing the game, who are pushing out their boss. Yeah, on the surface, okay. You could say on the surface. When I first saw the story, and I think it was a cover story for Daily Nation and The Standard, the 2 biggest print publications in Nairobi, and I did not read for the details. I was, first of all, not shocked. Yeah. In this region, and Kenya has had one of the biggest scandals, I think, in the 90s. What's that? The Goldberg scandal. We are one of those that happened under Arap Moi, the former president. Is that Kenya has had its fair share of scandals and corruption. Uganda is not too far off. We do not have as much information about corruption from Tanzania as we do about the 2 countries. So eventually, when I got to learn that even the FKF president is attached to it, I was not shocked. But I was also not making a ruling whether he's guilty or not. I was not shocked that one of them is involved. And if you remember, one of the stories that we did on this show is that I stated that one of my biggest fears when such events come around is that there is going to be a lot of theft. And I actually warned the people who run the prisons in this country, in Uganda in particular, to prepare some rooms to create space because it's inevitable it's going to happen. So the other week I was speaking to a member of parliament in Uganda who happens to live in my neighborhood. I won't reveal the name, and is part of the ruling party. And he told me while they were in Chankwanzi, they had met the president. The Chankwanzi is a national leadership institute that is often used by the ruling party NRM in Uganda. When President Museveni did meet them, one of the things he spoke to them passionately about was the AFCON. So this member of parliament told me, from the way they listen to the president speak, people will go to jail for messing up with the AFCON. I hope even in Nairobi they are speaking with the same language. But in this particular case of trying to push out Hussein Mohammed, I think it's a case of a coup d'etat. It's a coup d'etat. Clearly, McDonald Mariga, who was brought in and is now vice president of FKF, has now managed to force his way and split the executive of FKF into two. And now they are not reading from the same book.
Even before this incident, there have been cases of those two, Hussein Mohammed and McDonald Mariga, and not reading from the same book. Actually, there was a time when it was believed McDonald Mariga was being kicked out and his replacement was already there. It had to take the intervention of a government, William Ruto in particular, for McDonald Mariga to stay on as the vice president of Hussein Mohammed. So there has been a rift going on between these two. And now probably the powers...
And the rift is not even just about the insurance.
Yes.
So they are just waiting. Each one of the two is waiting for that moment when the rival takes a false step. Then they use it to hang them out to dry.
Yeah, but I mean, if FIFA is picking interests together, with CAF, whatever decision, because they have given them until the end of the month for them to avail whatever information FIFA is asking for as per the email that they sent. So if FIFA is picking interests in the matter, you get this gut feeling that heads are going to roll. Even if FIFA is on the side of Hussein Mohammed, by the look of that email, that he'll swing back into action, you get this gut feeling that those people who are using McDonald Mariga to kick Hussein Ahmed out
and vice versa
are not going to rest.
But
remember, these are also members of the local organizing committee of Kenya.
It doesn't, for me, it doesn't affect Pamoja. Because really? Pamoja is a government thing.
Yes.
It's government. This thing
so
is
how the government so what you're saying probably how the government of Kenya handles the situation.
Yeah. Because in the end, I think President Ruto would not jeopardize Kenya's chances of hosting the AFCON by choosing either Mariga or Mohammed. No. I think he's got to stand tall and say, this is what Kenya is doing. And that's what CAF will listen to, I think, in the end.
So you feel FIFA and CAF will probably get into the same corner with the government to make sure that
the AFCON happens. In the end, FA presidents are dispensable. Yeah, the two of them are not the first. There is a time when many of us here knew that when you mention FKF, the next thing has to be Sam Nyamweya. For very long. Or when you mention CECAFA, Nicholas Musonyi, who I was very glad actually to see at that conference that happened, the workshop that happened in regard to Pamoja. I'd actually also met him at an airport in Morocco when I was returning from the AFCON. So in the end, I think Ruto will put his foot down. If the government functionaries, the government in Kenya wants the AFCON to be held in a particular way, it doesn't matter who becomes FKF president. In the end, they will back whoever perhaps FIFA and CAF tell them he has followed the right statutes to get in that office. so that doesn't jeopardize. Because how can then a government invest as much as they have
true.
in Talanta Sports City and the renovation of Nyayo, which this week actually hosted athletics in the Kipkeno Classic. I saw Gabby Thomas, one of the great sprinters, running there. And then they've invested in a rail line, which they're saying they're extending from downtown Nairobi to the stadium.
And so many things.
And so many other things, including paying $30 million to CAF. Why would they then allow an individual jeopardize Kenya's chances? I think government has to put its foot down on that.
So, you were making your submission, for me, the other thing that came to my mind, that whoever is advising McDonald, Mariga, and these other members of NEC, why would they go in the direction of probably doing things outside the FKF statutes? Because you thought that they should have followed the rule book for them to be able to get whatever they
Sometimes in a war, one of the first casualties of war is truth. The other casualty of war is rules. That rules are hardly followed. So in that moment, they are very emotional. They are fed by either hatred or dislike. Maybe hatred is extreme, or dislike or disagreement with Hussein Mohammed, that they did not even want to refer to the rule book. That they first throw him out, then they realize maybe they made a mistake.
Exactly.
For me, that's where the challenge comes in a time when you're in the middle, because this sounds like a war. It's a war that is being fought in the boardrooms with letters, with ink, with computers. It's not a case of nuclear warheads, leaving one part of Nairobi to another part of the city. It's entirely a war that is being fought on that front. And in that case, statutes are going to take a break. Someone has to remind them that there are rules that have to be followed.
Exactly. And then I remember I was talking to somebody when the suspension circular just come out, and for him he summarized it in one place, that between me and you, this has nothing to do with the money that was paid to risk well insurance brokers. It had everything to do with Hussein Mohammed eating alone. That is how somebody in the circles of Kenyan football or politics summed it up. That it's a case of he ate alone, and it involved the rest of us.
And sometimes that's what is accused of the former FKF president. What's his name?
Nick Mwendwa,
yeah. Similar things. And that's sometimes how we mask theft of public funds in our region. Many times when you share the loot, everyone goes home happy. Yeah, when you don't share the loot, because maybe none of them has an issue with the insurance company that was paid. Yeah, even if it wasn't registered by the regulators. But in the end, if it's discovered that you did it on your own, I'd love that over the next months or so, I think the media across the East African region and maybe beyond have a lot of stories to tell about the procurement process. While personally, I'm one of those who is always skewed, because there's always a debate about the process and the result.
Yeah,
I'm always one who is skewed towards the result more than the process. So the process is going to have a lot of impurities in all these countries.
In this case, in this particular case, Mohammed Hussein says that they followed the process as per CAF rather guidelines. But if the people doing the investigations, the media in Kenya, are saying the company was not legally in business, and you're putting them in charge of ensuring a few areas of the tournament or even the entire tournament, what if something had happened? And you need to refer to the insurance cover you paid to these guys. And
because then the first place you go to is the regulators.
Imagine. So it's a decision that you can say in a way was putting the tournament at risk.
Yeah,
on so many fronts.
But it's not new.
It's not new, but I mean, it's not new, but at the level at which it's happening. Imagine, okay, that was Chan, but now we are preparing for the Africa Cup of Nations.
I know for the cases of tournaments like this and Uganda, I know Uganda has very strict guidelines on procurement under the Public Procurement and Disposal of Assets Act, PPDA. But I also know that for the case of the AFCON, some of these have been suspended because normally there's supposed to be a bidding process that will take a bit of time. Government entities or the LOC is encouraged to use a lot of direct procurement when they find someone who is able to provide a service. They don't have to call for bid documents, which may take 6 months, and then they are verified, and then there's an evaluation committee, then there's a period to assess, and then to award the contract. Government has encouraged the LOC to go out and procure if they want something, and then be able to fit within the budget, that kind of thing. So you really hope that people in these bodies, and I'm not even making a case for Hussein Mohammed, is that people in these bodies have a bit of shame. Because some of the time that's what it comes down to. There's someone who is in charge of transport, for example, and they are given a deal to go and procure buses
for teams
and officials. Or for officials, and they go and procure my car. Yeah, I wouldn't mind receiving the money, but my car is not of a standard. It wouldn't make a lot of sense. So those minor things, sometimes you hope there's a bit of shame, because in the end, they are representing East Africa. They are representing Kenya, they are representing Uganda, they are representing Tanzania. And they wouldn't want to be the people whose history is written that because of a wrong deal they made, the region failed on something. Let's say insurance, a hotel caught fire, or they procured a car to transport. Let's say the insurance was against... was for the cars that were transporting people, and a car catches fire and is found to have been in poor mechanical condition at the point where it was procured. There are things that are very, very shameful, that you only hope that people in charge look back themselves and say, we won't do this because we are being patriots and representing our countries.
Well, Isma is giving us confidence that the situation in Kenya, where FIFA and CECAFA have piqued interests, will not in any way jeopardize the 2027 Africa Cup of Nations. He is confident the government of Kenya will make sure that they call to book to whoever is responsible for this organization going on, and the AFCON should go on as planned. And I'd not looked at it from that angle, but now that you raise it, I feel they shouldn't.
By the way, sometimes, for the number of times I've been in Kenya, I've been to Kisumu, I've been to Nakuru, I've been to Eldoret, I've been to Nairobi, I've been to Mombasa, and also taken an entire bus ride from Nairobi to Mombasa and stopped at that carnival place and had some fantastic meat. Sometimes I'm very shocked by the ineptitude of some of the administrative stories I read in the Daily Nation. I sometimes think Kenya, as a system of governance, has gone ahead of us, ahead of Uganda. But sometimes I see the stories of the theft of public funds, and I look back and say, okay, sometimes are we even Ugandans? Are we angry for nothing? Yes, because we have enough of our stories of theft of public funds. I think 2 days or 40 hours don't go by when you haven't seen a story like that in Uganda.
Yeah.
So sometimes Kenya shocks me. There are things I think they've shed because there are things that come with development. They are much closer to middle income status than we are. There are things that come... the other day I was seeing a story of the relocation of some of the slums in Nairobi, and they are building housing facilities where you take a place that was accommodating 200 families to accommodate 3,000 families. And those are the kind of... When I see those things, I get a sense of a country that is on an upward trajectory. And sometimes that comes from the utilization of public funds. So when stories like this come, honestly, I'm shocked. Very shocked.
Well, it's still Africa. Well, that's all that time. Earlier on, Ismail also requested that the local organizing committee, especially that here in Uganda, should at least try to have weekly press conferences giving us updates about the 2027 Africa Cup of Nations. As we wait for that, we've committed ourselves to bring you a weekly show, at least with updates around the Africa Cup of Nations. There's a show, Isma, that I've been dying to do. Probably it's the next one that we should do. There is a lot of negative energy going on from different parts of Africa about our competence to host the Africa Cup of Nations. And people are doubting our competence in comparison to Morocco. Yeah. And I've said for me time and again that we are not under pressure to meet Morocco standards, but we are under pressure to meet CAF standards. And for me, I feel probably that's something we can expound on in our next show. That should be
we should. Week. Morocco were bidding to host the World Cup back in 2006, which was eventually hosted by Germany. So the layers have been they've already taken. But the one thing maybe Africa has to learn, and we'll probably discuss it, Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania will offer a bigger variety than any African country will ever offer off the pitch.
So those details in our next video. Clive Cheze is my name. I've been in company of Ismail Dakawa Chigongo, the head of sports at Nation Media Group. See you again in the next video.